Good morning, everybody. I'm Stephanie Delman. I'm a partner at EY, and I'm really kind of delighted with the role I have being our EY Women's Network sponsor, and I'm also our partner sponsor for gender in the UK. And it's such a privilege to do this because I just get to meet so many wonderful women, and do lots of kind of interesting events, and really spend a bit of time focusing on advancing the women in our organisation and more broadly. I'm in that role. So I'm a partner sponsor, but I have two co-chairs, which are Farah and Caroline, and they're going to talk to you a bit later about the survey. And actually, they do all the hard work, putting on the events and running the network day to day. But this slide just gives you a bit of an overview. Our women's network at EY, we have a number of different people networks. So we have networks around faith, around sexual orientation, around ethnicity. Lots of kind of different networks. But our women's network is our largest one, and it's the one that's been around the longest. So it was established over 10 years ago now. And very much aligned to our purpose as an organisation of building a better working world, and in particular for us by accelerating gender parity at EY and beyond. And actually for us this year, or rather 2020 was a really important year for diversity for us as an organisation, and obviously out in the wider world with the Black Lives Matter movement. And there was a real kind of awakening, I think, internally for us as an organisation about the really fundamental importance of diversity and making sure that everybody in our organisation was having, a similar experience or an equitable experience. And I think there was a time for us to hold up a mirror and really think about whether that was happening. So there's a lot of momentum, I think, at the moment for us, certainly around diversity. So it's a great time to be kind of actively part of the network. But our objectives in the network really, there's sort of different facets to it, but a really important one is to empower women within EY to build their careers at EY and feel empowered to do that. There's an external facing part for us about building external relationships, and we'll come on to it a little bit, but about being a disruptive voice on diversity as well externally, but also really to enhance our EY culture through gender diversity and inclusion. And really trying to make sure that everybody feels that they have a sense of belonging, that everybody can belong. So we've got more than 3,000 network members, and I'm always pushing to get more. So we're trying to get more and more members. We've got 25 locations where we have people, networks or mini networks. And we have a senior leadership team, which works really well for us, where people have got very kind of defined responsibilities, and there's more than 20 members on that senior leadership team. And as part of our diversity commitment at EY, we have doubled our targets for representation at partner level for women to 40%. So currently we're about 22% women in our partnership, which is definitely not where we want to be. And for a long time we've had a target of 30%, and we didn't feel like we were getting there quickly enough, so we increased that to 40%, and it's 40% by 2025, which is really ambitious. So that is really creating some important momentum, I think. So perhaps moving on to the next slide, just a brief overview about what we've been doing this last year. So this last year has been super interesting for everybody, and it'll be interesting when we come on to the survey results later, and Farah and Caroline talk us through. But we've found being in lockdown has been fantastic for us, because normally we're trying to book a room, we're trying to do some, get some logistics sorted out, but because all of our events have gone virtual, we have increased the participation in our events, and we've been able to increase the number of events. So in the last 12 months, we've run 32 events, and the average attendance is somewhere between 1 and 200. Sometimes it goes up to 400, depending on the event. But this is just a sort of snapshot of some of them. We had a brilliant one with the Female Lead, which is a great organisation, kind of empowering women and girls, but around social media and the impact on it. And it was great pleasure for me because I've got two daughters, they're 12 and 15, and they came and sat in and watched with me. So we encourage people to watch with their daughters. So that was brilliant. And then we had this next one along was a brilliant session on from Miss Menopause, and she was talking about the impact of menopause in the workplace, and interesting for me as a woman in her mid 40s. So eye-opening really, but that was super interesting as well. And then we had the one we had the fabulous Steph Reed, who's a Paralympian, talking to us about 3 ways to reignite your motivation, which is particularly difficult, I think, for lots of us now in lockdown, trying to be motivated. I know I find myself feeling a bit tired, and so it's great to hear from Steph, and she was super inspiring. And then, of course, IWD was a big event for us, and it was brilliant. We had a session. It was a bit like Eurovision Song Contest. That's kind of how I thought of it. So, and we kind of had all of our different office locations, or most of our office locations, all dialing in on video, and then we went handed over to them, and they did an award, and so that was great. And we have awards that we give to people in EY who have been voted by their peers to have stood out in terms of advancing gender progression or being great female role models. So lots of activity in the year that was kind of really energizing, certainly energizing for me. And another one there with this last year, so at EY we're a firm of chartered accountants at our heart, and I'm a chartered accountant, and this in 2020 was 100 years of women in chartered accountancy. So the 100 years since the first woman was allowed to become a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. And it's very interesting looking at over those 100 years of how long it had taken to get to some gender balance within the profession, and we've still got a long way to go. And I think a next focus for our profession is really getting more Black women in particular into the profession, because the numbers in the profession are already quite low for women, but then when you look at Black women in particular, then that's really low. So I'm very interested in the intersectionality for us of making sure that we're really focusing on our women of different ethnicities. And so that's just a bit of a canter through some of the things that we've had, but for me it's just been a real pleasure to have so much engagement. I feel like we've really felt engagement. And the other thing has been and I don't know if you've all noticed this, but when we're on events that are kind of virtual like this, there's a lot of active chat that goes on in the chat box, and so we feel like there's more engagement than rather than people in an audience maybe have to put up their hand. It takes a little bit more courage maybe, but we've definitely kind of felt that too. And then maybe just moving on to the last slide, just looking ahead for us. So what are our priorities for 21? Being a disruptive voice on gender is one of our priorities for diversity generally, kind of as a firm, but particularly for our women's network, being a real disruptive voice on gender and making sure that we get our voice out there on LinkedIn and in social media to make sure that we're making our voices heard. And the second one here is really key for us as well, making sure that there's a safe space for women in the organization, in our network, to be able to talk about the challenges they might face at work that might be different from the challenges that men face. I mean, we have come to a realization ourselves at EY that our organization, in its history and the way it's grown up, is a male gendered culture, and that's kind of obvious to some of us and less obvious to others. But for women, sometimes just the day-to-day challenges they might have in being in a male kind of orientated environment. It's good to have the network to come together and get some inspiration and some motivation. And takes you on to the third point, really, about access to role models, because I know in my area I'm the only female. So in my kind of small area, I'm an energy audit partner. I look after oil and gas and mining companies, and there's 13 partners of us that do that, and I'm the only female one. And so for the women in my department, I'm very conscious that they don't have a great kind of range of female role models. They've only got me and have to look further. So the network is a good place for people to see other role models in different parts of the business. And then the last two there are really about, just looking outside and engaging others in our passion around gender diversity. So educating others on gender issues and really increasing male engagement. And we think that's a really important thing. Think about male allyship, and lots of the great men that we work with really want to make a difference, but they don't always know how. And so really just trying to do some things that can help men to become male allies as well. So that's just a canter through, but I hope you I hope the session goes well, and I hope that you enjoy the session on the survey report as well, because we really enjoyed putting that together. But thanks, Vanessa.